Up until a year ago, I was an editor of America's oldest Christian magazine and America's largest casino magazine. And the intersections between the two have been just really, really interesting. Dostoevsky has a beautiful quote saying that no one approaching the gaming table is immune from superstition, right? There's this very interesting mix between the two. So, my interest in religion happened, I was at the World Trade Center on September 11th, which was a terrible day to be there, an atheist and agnostic, and sort of had this realization that wherever we are in life, we are impacted by religion, whether we are religious or not. Religion is this sort of through line story and narrative, and that it bore some looking into. I've spent the last many years looking into that, especially the last few years looking into intersections between games and religion. So this has culminated in a project that I'm working on right now called the 10-Year Game, which is basically an attempt to game religion. So the name of my 5-minute talk today is DIY religion, or religion can be hacked, should be hacked, how it can be hacked, and why makers, gamers, geeks, scientists, and artists are the people who should be doing it. All right, 5 minutes. Start the clocks. Right. So let's start off with some definitions. Most of us know religion as we've seen it or experienced it in our own lives. You know, going to church on the holidays, seeing the religion on the news, but there's a definition of religion that I really like from someone who at Oxford was looking at this vast span of what religion was and what it did over thousands of years. He was looking at the ancient world in particular, and this through line that he found was that religion is our way of engaging with what we don't know and what we can't know. And not only engaging with our minds, but engaging with our bodies, engaging with our social institutions, basically having some sort of a roadmap for what is unknowable in our experience. The two ways that we do that are through logos and praxis. This is sort of classical religion theory. Logos, of course, are these reasons that we give ourselves, and praxis are these actions that we set ourselves. Now, praxis are things like pilgrimage, ordeal, incubation, prayer, fasting, vigils, yogas, divinations, sacrifices, basically the things that we do with our bodies. What becomes interesting is that praxis is in many ways much older and much more fundamental to religion than logos is. We tend to think about religion as what you believe, but in fact religion ends up being much more of a how and a who than a what and a why. What you do with your community than what you believe in. There's a saying that as much as the Jews have preserved the Sabbath has preserved the Jews, this praxis. 3 of the 5 pillars of Islam are praxes, right? Things that we do. Well, if I'm talking to a room of game designers, looking at religion as something that is based around praxis should begin to feel very familiar, right? Praxis are like games. Praxis can be written as games. There is a hair's breadth of difference between the Hajj and Journey to the End of the Night. We played a game of the weekend called Shabbatput, which was looking at playing the Jewish Sabbath as a game, right? You have a home base, you have teams, you have rules. The other interesting part about religion, I see you have something on the wall, will game makers become the new ruling class? Religion has always been deeply influenced by the new class, the class that comes into its own. When kings came into place, we had monotheism. When philosophers came into their own, we had the rise of theology. When artists came into their own, we had religious art. The new classes have always informed religion. The difference is that while technology always evolves forward, religion always evolves backwards. There's always a return. There's always a turning back to basics, fundamentalism, refinding a purity. Well, if we understand this, that praxis, the praxis part of religion is older, than the logos part of religion. It is in many ways fundamental. Then this game part of religion is in fact perhaps the next big step of religion. This return to praxis, this return to games. And in fact, game makers, I think, will be fundamental in the future of religion. That being said, I want to talk briefly about this project that we're working on. It's called the 10-Year Game, and it is not a set of beliefs. It's not even a set of praxis. It is, I think, it's a platform, an open source platform. It is a methodology for taking praxis and playing them as game, a belief-agnostic way to play rituals as games. It involves 10 teams that are based on these 10 parts of human experience. Our methodology is based on the Dewey Decimal System. There's a puppet involved, but that's another 5 minutes. Basically there's a blank canvas, which is the liturgical year ahead, and the 10 teams collaborate on a series of holidays that happen throughout the year. Not just holidays, but events, persistent games, practices, and as each team wins, they story their part of the experience throughout the year. So you end up seeing sort of this human experience, which is broken into 10 parts, sort of in ascendance and descendance throughout the course of the year, based on these sort of rituals that the team sort of evolve. Now, why would we do such a thing? Why is it incumbent upon game makers, geeks, scientists, artists, and makers to become involved in this narrative of religion? Quite frankly, it's simple. My brother is a brilliant guy, a scientist, atheist, Church of the Spaghetti Monster sort of guy. He's married in a church. He'll die in a church. When he hits life crisis, or his crisis right now of figuring out how to be grateful for what he's got in his life, his language is the church. When we are creating communities like mad online, we are creating digital communities, but are these communities doing the things that we need in the fundamental moments of our lives? When we are faced with the unknown, do we have a language for that? There's a huge book coming out this year from some very large American scholars of sociology called American Grace, which is following this trend in the West and in Europe, of course, that religion is, perhaps for good reasons, falling into disrepute. This happens in the course of world religion, that we shift our traditions, but that the net effect of this is that we are becoming less compassionate, less involved in each other's lives, less able to face crisis. There is a sort of a social crisis going on in creating our communities of meaning, and so this 10-Year Game and many, many other efforts at DIY Religion are attempts for gamers and game makers to sort of boldly, inventively, and with grace and humor step into that gap. And there's my 5. Thank you all so much.